Supper is ready. What's the third one? Why is eating together important? Anyone want to say why that's important? Why not just eat alone? In my family growing up, my father had a very hard rule. He said that unless, of course, there was a commitment outside the home that I had to be at or such, I was expected to be at the dinner table with everybody else. And I had to have a proper shirt on. For him, there was a shirt with a collar, so not a t-shirt, not a tank top. And being the family meal was important. Okay? And people even fly cross country, travel quite a distance to be with family members for like a Thanksgiving meal. Having a meal is important. What is it? It says that we have a common life. We share life together. There's a story of Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin, who with being signed a peace treaty. They're facilitated by Bill Clinton. And what's not known is that when they did that, there's this big photo shoot, shaking hands reluctantly. They really didn't like each other. That the Clintons invited the two of them to the White House for dinner, and neither Yitzhak Rabin or Yasser Arafat dared a meal with each other. It was hard for them to sit down and share food. Okay? If you're at odds with someone, it's hard to have a meal because that meal says something of a shared life. So what I'm saying here is, I'm convinced that Lent and Easter can be understood in part through those three terms. I love you, you are forgiven, and supper is ready. Okay. Now, how do I make that connection? Keep in mind the movement of readings in Lent and at Easter. The movement of the readings Sunday to Sunday, I think, are best seen when we look at year A. Just remind you, on Sundays, the readings at Mass follow a 3-year cycle. Okay? We say year A, year B, year C. And year A, especially in Lent, but it's also Easter. Year A, the readings on Sunday, for especially 3 of those Sundays, the year A readings are selected with the catechumens in mind. Those who are preparing for baptism at Easter, okay, catechumens, the 3 readings on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Sundays are really with those folks in mind. It's hard to find another priest or a staff person in the area who agrees with me, but where I go and I make my case, other staffs will say they'll go along with me. That is, I'm convinced that at all Masses on Sunday, we should be having those readings. So it isn't just one Mass where those catechumens already hear a certain set of readings, everybody else is different. But the movement is important here. Remember, the first Sunday of Lent, the reading is Jesus going off into the desert. That's in all 3 years. Okay? They're being tempted out there. The second reading, again, it's in all 3 years, but from different Gospels. It's Jesus being transfigured on that mountain. Okay? In eyesight of others. The transfiguration. In cycle A, the third Sunday is the woman at the well in John's Gospel. Okay? Samaritan woman, Jesus is talking to her. She's a Samaritan, she's a woman. You ought not be doing that on both accounts. She needs some water. He needs some water. He offers her living water. She thinks that means running water. The word living is the same as running, is how it's used in language. Jesus offers her some super duper water. Water is life. The next Sunday, 4th Sunday of Lent, it's the reading of the man born blind. He slowly comes to see. Okay? He's basically, what do we say, seeing is believing. He comes to believe, is what we're being told. And the 5th Sunday of Lent is Lazarus being raised from the tomb. Each of those Sundays anticipates something about baptism. Transfiguration, Jesus turned glowingly white. Baptismal garment. He seems anticipated. The woman at the well, baptismal water. Man born blind, Jesus makes mud. You know, the Spirit of the guy's anointing, the oil there in confirmation, and that we use in initiation. Lazarus being raised from the tomb is the whole movement of the baptismal font. Baptismal font where you die and you rise. The symbol of baptism that's going to be anticipated there is the font. I'm convinced that when we look at Lent, we can see, I love you and you are forgiven. Those words are being spoken to us, to all people, especially to those catechumens. Those words are being said to us all by God. But to understand Lent is to understand we are deeply loved, and that we are forgiven, that whatever is in our lives that is broken need not get in the way of a very deep relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. Lent is a time to really take that to heart, to reflect upon that. Remember, the word Lent comes from an early English word, lengthen, like our word today. Lengthen refers to the lengthening of days. And so it's another way of saying spring. So the word Lent means springtime. It's not the dead of winter. It's not about death. It's about coming to life. Life is God is deeply in love with us. If God had an ego, God goes beyond the ego boundaries for each one of us. And through that, we are reconciled. We are forgiven. You know, we can be one with God. We can sit at the table with God. And so, supper is ready, I'm convinced, can be seen at Easter time, where God feeds us sacramentally and with a life of grace. Again, consider the readings for the cycle A of Easter. It's most clear there. First Sunday of Easter, of course, we celebrate the resurrection. The second Sunday, the Sundays can be seen as pointing to sacraments in the church life. Second Sunday of Easter, cycle A, is doubting Thomas. He comes to faith. It's really about that he gets short shrift being doubting Thomas. He comes to faith. Okay, that story. So it's about sacrament. Be seen as pointing us to the sacraments of coming to faith: baptism and confirmation. Third Sunday of Easter, it's the road to Emmaus, where Jesus appears to these grieving disciples. He breaks bread, and in the breaking of the bread, they realize that he's been there all along. So what's happened? Eucharist, sacrament of the breaking of the bread. The next Sunday, it's shepherd. Jesus is the shepherd through whom the sheep leave and return to the corral. The sheep bin, okay? And it's Jesus the shepherd. It's the caring church. The church cares. And we see that in the sacraments of caring, reconciliation, anointing of the sick. Then after that, there are stories on Easter about mission, about being sent. So the next Sunday can be seen as the sacraments of mission, marriage, and holy orders. So Easter is about it's a time of recognizing that like those catechumens being baptized at Easter, they move into the Christian life, and the Christian life is about a life of sacraments and mission. And we are being fed. And we are at the table. We are always at supper, being fed by God. So supper is ready. I'm suggesting to you that those three phrases can form as a nice backdrop or a map or an understanding to frame Lent and Easter. I love you. You are forgiven. Supper is ready. And we live that out every Sunday, of course, with the breaking of the bread. Is that making some sense?